You are very welcome to this video, beautiful community. This is health circumstances conditioning our production today. So I've had a look at some of the recent questions coming in, and there were a few about the 1996 election in Russia and what significance that might have just generally in the way we think about Russia's descent into tyranny, but also, for us from outside, learning lessons about how to do what? To not have your democracies degenerate from France to Hungary and from Hungary to Belarus. The evidence that the 1996 election was faked is limited, but it was certainly an unfair and corrupt election. Enormously free compared to Mr. Putin's elections, but still perhaps tragically imperfect. And so where's the tragic element here? As the election loomed, President Yeltsin was trying to get re-elected, was polling in the low double digits or even in the single digits. And his opponent, Mr. Zyuganov, the leader of the Communist Party, looked in good shape. And there was a consolidation of business and media to try to asphyxiate Mr. Zyuganov and his chances, because this was taken to be existential. This wasn't just about which president got elected, but this was about whether we're going to roll back. The Russians felt at the time, are we going to roll back to the USSR if it goes Zyuganov's way? That was a mistake, retrospectively. So, without analyzing it in detail for you now, part of the motivation of that kind of pro-Yeltsin consolidation was that it was okay to take steps with very low democratic credentials, to take perhaps undemocratic steps, to avoid an undemocratic outcome. So that's, I would say, in global terms, the fascination of that election. It's a situation where, in an attempt to preserve democracy, undemocratic steps were taken. There are other fascinating narratives about that election, including about election interference, because Mr. Yeltsin was repeatedly asking President Clinton to do various things to help him perform better at the polls. So this was a kind of American interference in Russian domestic politics that was welcomed by one side. Of the two competing for the office of president. So why is it interesting potentially to talk about situations like that 1996 election in Russia, wherever they happen in the world for us? Now, some of you might be having these thoughts about contemporary American politics now and next year, but it's actually a universal truth. And I'm going to make a prediction here. As several Western democracies wobble in the next 10 years, there will be candidates who are there to try to break the democratic game. Candidates who want to muzzle the courts, who want to muzzle all counter-majoritarian institutions, including the media. Candidates who want to get elected and not get unelected afterwards. And there are going to be possibilities to get these people but not get them in a completely clean way. And getting them might feel like saving democracy, even though the way we do it might be procedurally insupportable. So what's my general advice to us as democratic citizens about how we should think about this situation that will arise in virtually any country that you're in several times in the next decade? There'll be an anti-democratic politician, and there'll be choices about whether they should be stopped by undemocratic means. So here's my advice. It's almost always a bad idea to do that. And if we stop an anti-democratic politician in their tracks, it's not always, because there are always exceptions, but it's got to meet two conditions. The first is that it's got to be a non-political process. Yeah? It can't just be one side taking out its opponents. And it's also, this is the second condition, it's got to be a process that doesn't look political. Being political, or even smelling political, being easy to interpret as being political, is something that we should try to avoid, because it seems like it's an easy lever to reach for to save democracy. But if you stretch out the consequences of that, for polarization, for loss of trust, for decay of institutional supports over the, let's say, 5 years to come from when you in your country, witness an anti-democratic politician being cut off like that, the consequences are always going to be worse. So that's the global lesson from Russia's sort of self-defeating attempt to steer itself toward democracy in 1996. Thank you for bearing with me today. Lots of love and health to you all. Bye-bye.